I'm the river, I'm the rain, the lonesome whistle of a train. I'm the amber waves of grain. I'm the highway, I'm the farm, fertile fields and boulevards, the hand that rests over your heart. Oh, I'm the echo of the bell that's ringing. Oh, I'm the freedom in the song we're singing. I'm the seed that's in the dust. I'm the prayer in God we trust. The place to dream for all of us. I'm America. Dance, the open window to a chance, the place where courage takes a stance. All the colors that you see, the lights from 30,000 feet. Yeah, I'm the roar of victory. Oh, I'm the echo of the bell that's ringing. Oh, I'm the freedom in the song we're singing. I'm the seed that's in the dust. I'm the prayer in God we trust. The place to dream for all of us. I'm America. I'm America. I'm the fathers, I'm the sons. I'm the footprints in the mud. I'm a shelter washed in blood. I'm the seed that's in the dust. I'm the prayer in God we trust. The place to dream for all of us. I'm America. I'm America. I'm America. I'm America.
Welcome to HomeFront Sitrep. I hope you're in for a great show today, because I'm just a veteran talking about what's on my mind and maybe yours.
You can find HomeFront Sitrep on Apple, Amazon, Spotify, or wherever you find your favorite podcasts. You can also check out HomeFront Sitrep's YouTube channel.
Buckle up, the show is starting. Welcome, everybody, to a Sunday edition of HomeFront Sitrep. How is everybody doing? Gunny, how are you, sir?
I'm good, man. Good. Had a good Thanksgiving with the family, the in-laws, and then, man, watching a bunch of crazy NCAA football. My Michigan Wolverines pulled one out yesterday in the toilet bowl, and then we had the jump that was supposed to happen at UC. Mother Nature did her thing. We had crazy turbulence in the stadium, crazy winds up top. So we decided, for the safety of everybody, not to jump. So now I've got a couple weeks off to do the honey-do list before we close out our season here at the end of December. How about you?
It's been a crazy week, man. Thanksgiving was really, really good. Um, Watched the Cardinals spank the Cats yesterday. That was a welcome sight on my end. Of course, my wife was not so happy about it, with her being uh, a cat fan, but it's a house divided. Um, but no, overall, it was a good week. And then I went in and see my PT guy on, was it Friday, and he was very upset that there was that long break in between me seeing him the last
Yeah,
time and me getting in there. And he's like, dude, we need to get you into community consult. So he's put me out in the community.
good.
So I'm hoping to start that come tomorrow or Tuesday. That way I can get back in the swing of getting this knee moving and all that good jazz. But no, man, wasn't a bad week. We had this, 2 inches of snow here in Mount Washington. It woke up the next morning and it was gone already.
Yeah,
So
we had a dusting. We had nothing. It was crazy.
yeah, so it wasn't too bad. And then just hitting the grind of doing this podcast thing, man, reaching out to people and getting things scheduled. So we are full for December with all the guests that we're going to do. Of course, we're taking that 2 week break at the end of December.
Yeah,
We'll start back. I think it's January 5th will be our first episode back in January. Just to, you take a holiday break, man. We've been going at it pretty strong since last December, and it's just time for a little bit of a break and not focus on the podcast. And of course,
good.
I want to go ahead and try to get January filled up before I take that break,
Right.
or relatively close to filled up. That way, when we come back, we're not scrambling.
Yeah. And then you
So
don't have to listen to me run my suck for an hour and a half. Right.
you know what though? Me and you can sit here and chit chat and talk about things that are of utmost importance, and
Yeah.
I think we would be fine. So I'm not even if we don't have a show, we can come up with something. Whether it's talking about PTS or some organization that we've volunteered for recently, or something. We can
Right.
definitely come up with something because there's always a buttload of veteran events going on. Like
Of
right now,
course.
we're in the process of doing Operation Veteran Santa. We started that last year with one family. This year we have upped it to 6 families. We were shooting for 12, and that's 2 from each county around my county that I live in. And just like last year, it's hard finding veteran families or veterans to say, "Hey, we're in need of assistance," because
Yeah.
we get that mentality that we don't want to ask for help. So we got to put it out there in the community and say, hey, if you know of a veteran that's in need for assistance, reach out to us. And we did find 6 this year. Super excited about that. One of the families is mom, dad, and 4 kids. That's our largest family that we
Wow.
found this year. And the age range from 18 to 2 years old, I think. Uh, so super excited about that to get to help that family out. That's going to be my thing is just being able to help them and seeing the smiles on the kids' faces. That's all I care about. I don't care about, um, I don't care about the news recognition or anything like that. That's not what we do it for. We do it
Right.
for the smiles on the kids' faces. So that's
Yeah.
that's what I'm excited
That
about.
little bit of hope.
Yeah, yeah. So and then tonight we got a great guest coming on tonight.
Yeah, I thought I was busy. This guy is all over the place, got his hands in so many different things. I mean, when I read his bio, I was like, holy cow.
Yeah,
And then, before we started, we talked to him a little bit and oh man, yeah, I don't know where he has the time and energy from, but
I mean,
he
there's
needs to
only
share some
24
he needs to share some of it this way.
there's only 24 hours in the day, and this guy stays busy, I think 23.59 of them. So super, super busy guy. Um, so I think I showed the little slide at the beginning, but there's a new TV series that's on Amazon Prime. What's up, Rich LaMonica? How are you, sir? Rich and Monica's with Misfit Nation. So, new veteran TV series, comedy TV series on Amazon Prime called Office Joe. Um, this guy here is writer, founder, producer, A little bit of everything.
director, a little bit every. I think he even stars in it a little bit too. I mean, like I said, he's got his hand in every little piece of this thing. So yeah, super
And
excited to hear about that. And of course, he's been involved in some things in the past too. And one of the largest crowd-funded movies, that ever, and it evolved around the veteran community, and a lot of craziness ensued during that too. So yeah, super excited to hear about what he's working on. It's cool.
yeah, definitely. I think I saw one of the trailers. Rocco Vargas is in one of the episodes. It looks like you got the guy that does all the skits on TikTok, Mandatory Fun Day or something like that. I think is what, I can't remember his real name, but he's in some of the episodes. So yeah, I'm super excited. So without further ado, let's bring Mr. Nick up to the stage. Welcome,
Hey, guys.
sir.
Thanks so much for having me on.
Yeah, you're just gonna be Nick or Mr. Dick, because I'm not
That's fine.
gonna try to screw up your last name.
It's my whole life, man. It's a challenge. My whole life,
I'm sure. How'd everything at the academy go? Were you just
yeah. So they either resorted to the same thing that like elementary school kids did, and I was like Parmesan, or it was alphabet, or hey WAP, or whatever.
Yeah.
The usual, the insults they probably can't make anymore.
Right, definitely.
Yeah, that's politically correctness has taken a damper on our military for sure, and taking the mandatory fun out of it and all that stuff, and the fun making, and as long as it's all in good nature. So
yeah.
Banter's always good.
Yeah.
So do us a favor, Mr. Nick. Introduce yourself to our audience and our listeners out there, if you don't mind.
I'm Italian, so this could go on for a while. So like, what kind of length are we looking at here? Like 5 seconds, or like 30,
whatever you want to do.
Whatever you want to share. You can start at middle school, elementary, high school, wherever you want to start.
What took your path to join the Army and then into getting in the academy?
Super easy. I was born in Providence, Rhode Island. And when I was 3 years old, I moved to Italy. My dad is Italian. He's a naturalized citizen that served in Vietnam as a ALO for First Special Forces Group. He had the opportunity in a GS capacity to take us back to Italy. And so from the ages of like 3 to 10, I was an Italian kid. Like, I lived on the Italian economy. I spoke Italian. I went to Montessori, had this idyllic childhood. We were in Naples near the water. So, I mean, it was like perfect. And then we moved back to Massachusetts outside of Boston, and kids were like, "Hey, I heard you spoke Italian." I was like, yeah, they're like, "Say something." And I would, and then they'd beat the shit out of me. And that went on for 18 months. And I'm old, so this was around the time like Karate Kid was at its peak. And I was like, "Mom, I need to learn karate because this sucks." And karate was 45 minutes away. So she was like, "Judo is 15 minutes away." And at the time I was pissed because like I had to learn judo. I ended up linked up with like some world-class judoka. So I ended up becoming like a real high-level judo guy. Which led to being a high-level wrestler, which led to, some grit and meanness. And when I was applying to schools, the first application to kind of get mailed to our house was from West Point. And I looked at it and I was like, like, I don't think so. I pushed it across the table, and my dad was like, "I think you should look at this." And he never weighed in on like our future, like, my brother and I. It was like, you're your own man, do what you want to do. But he said, "Go take a look." So I did. And so I visited other schools, and every school I went to was like, "Hey, we're the best. You should come here because we're awesome." And I went to West Point, and I spent a day and a half, and I followed this kid, new cadet, or Cadet Han. And he got his ass kicked the entire time. Like, they were on him about everything. It was a miserable day and a half for this guy. And the very last meal that we had, it was lunch before they dropped me off back to my parents. This upperclassman leads over to me and goes, "Look, bro, if you're coming here because you think the uniforms are cool, or your parents want you to come, or any other reason, you're going to fucking fail. Like the only way you're going to get through this place is if you want to come and serve your country and do it for you. And then I was hooked. So then it was like, all right, if I don't get into West Point, like I applied to ROTC everywhere, and that was it. So, you know, I came to West Point with the intention of, you know, wrestling and doing all those things. And that's what brought me to the military.
Nice. So I know at the Naval Academy, it's mandatory to do a sport. Is it the same thing at West Point? Does everybody have to do a sport?
Yeah, it's the same thing. I was a scrub on the wrestling team for a while. It was shell shock. So I only wrestled 4 years in high school, and we went my freshman year of high school was our team's first year. So it wasn't like we had a building. Yeah. So judo is what got me through like freshman year, and I worked harder than I had worked at anything in my entire life to become like an all-state wrestler. But I got to West Point, and the kid in my weight class was like a multiple Penn State champ, and he was an assassin.
Oh, man.
I hadn't been pinned in like 2.5 years, and this guy pinned me in like 57 seconds. It was demoralizing. So I was a scrub on the team for about a year, and then I got heavily recruited. I was also beat the fuck up from the academics at West Point, whatever. And like, I'm not making excuses. Like these guys were just better than I was. But I was pretty world class at judo at this point. So the judo team kind of found out about that, and I jumped ship to judo and boxing. And so this was the weird way that I kind of became like an MMA guy, not with the intention of being an MMA guy, but it was like, you know, hey, when you're not doing judo, why don't you box with us? Because you've competed, 500, 600 times at this point. And so, you know, I was on the judo team. We were a national, champion judo team, and for the Army. And so like I've basically been in combat sports my whole life. And when I actually got commissioned, I went to my first duty station. My first duty station was in Friedberg, Germany, which is where Elvis was stationed. And I had been cutting weight at that point, like my entire life, starting at 11. And so I was like, I'm done with combat sports. I'm done with fighting. Like, I just want to be a lieutenant and be a regular dude and not think about combat sports anymore. And this guy, Chaplain Fairbrother, his kid was a good wrestler. His name's Jonathan Fairbrother, was a good wrestler. And their wrestling coach had just PCS'd. And he walks up to me. This is like, I'm talking about like week 3 or something of being a lieutenant. Man. And he's like, hey, Lieutenant Palmisciano, I need to talk to you. It was like, hey, listen, the wrestling coach just left. And, I talked to the battalion commander already. And you're going to be able to leave every day at 4:00 to coach wrestling. And I was like, hey, sir, I kind of need a break from all this. I've been fighting since I was 11, at this point I'm like 22 or something. And get the battalion commander and the chaplain basically told me like, this isn't optional,
Yeah.
So like with no pause, I went right into like coaching this wrestling team, but it ended up being like a game changing moment, because I was reminded that I loved the sport, and I was just worn down and tired of competing and being on the hook and the weight, but like teaching kids was awesome. And we won the Gießen High School, which was the high school. We won the European championships.
Wow,
and it was awesome. Me, and I pulled this other guy that was a much better wrestler than I was, Jim Milligan, onto it. And the two of us coached this team. And so, yeah, man, like, and that led to, cornering guys and training with guys, and, 12 years of cornering in the UFC, and just all so random, like just the things that kind of happened, like all so random. But yeah, that was, that's
so
what
how many total years did you do in the military?
I was only in for 6.
Only 6.
Yeah. Like I am not in any way special when it comes to my service. Like I say that all the time. The Army gave me way more than I gave it. And it was a fantastic foundation for the rest of my life. Now, we could get into like why I got out, because it was very bittersweet getting out. I absolutely loved being a platoon leader. I loved being around the guys. I had a couple of officers that really sucked my will to live and made me question, because you guys know the deal. Like, as an O, one bad report and your career's done. Like, you're
Yeah.
not going to be a battalion commander. You're not going to do any of those. And I'm a smart ass. I have no chill. And I've always been that way. And I think it comes from having an NCO dad, because like when I was commissioned, he was like, don't be an MP. And that was because he had beef. He had real beef with an MP in Vietnam. I can tell that story. But he's like,
I mean,
"Don't be an
there's a lot of the Vietnam vets that don't go to be an MP. Those guys are trash. All they do is turn on you. Oh, yeah, my grandfather was in the Army during that time, and I got the same spiel.
My dad spent like a couple weeks on mission, and they came back in a Jeep that literally had like blood on the floor. You know what I mean? And they got pulled over for going like 30 and a 25. And like but it turned into like a whole thing, and colonels were involved, and so that was the one thing. But the big thing he told me was, whether it's in 6 years or 30 years, at some point you're going to get out, you're going to be a civilian. You don't ever want to look back and think, I didn't do the right thing. And when you're in the military, things can feel like they are life or death, because there are these people that control your life that can really make your life fucking miserable.
Oh yeah.
And so I just kind of live by that. And admittedly, looking back on it as an older man, some of the things I did were fucking stupid. But I always just was like, I don't know, sir. This is what I think. Like, this is how it is. I don't think this is, So I was that pain in the ass, and some officers loved me, but there were a couple that I had like real problems with. And so I kind of ended up in this situation where I was like, oh man, like, do I, if I go all in, I'm on the hook with these guys, and like I could spend 12 years and then find out in year 13 somebody doesn't like me, and there goes battalion command, there goes your opportunity to do these things. So that's one of the reasons that I didn't stay in. But it was tough, because I really loved being with the guys. I think and some of my friends now have said, you probably would have enjoyed the military more as an enlisted guy. And I think that's probably true. But hey, life moves.
Yeah. So I did 6 years in the Marine Corps. So I'm right there with you. Now, my plan was so I got out in 04 or 01 the first time before 9/11 happened. And then I got recalled back in after 9/11 happened. Then I got out in 04. Well, my plan was to go into the Army, change my MOS from infantry to something other than infantry. That way, by the time I got out after 20, I would have a job skill to fall back on.
Yep.
But when it comes to officers, I think me and Sam can attest to having officers suck the life out of you, because we had one in golf company. He was a captain, and he was just one of those guys. I think he picked up major, and that's as far as he got. I think he got out after.
Yeah, his major was like phys ed with a minor in outdoor recreation, and he ran us in the friggin' dirt every chance he got. I mean, I was like, dude, he was like 6'4", built like this, and he was all about he was all about PT, and it's like, dude, at the time I was, close to 6 foot and about 140, 150, and my body was not built for running long distance, and I'm like, he's gonna kill somebody. Well, it'd probably be me.
Well, he got sent home from Korea, if I remember correctly.
He did.
He got relieved of duty by the battalion commander in Korea, and then that's the last we've seen of him. And so we definitely understand the officers. Now, we're enlisted, so it's probably a little bit different on our end from your end. But that I was fresh out of boot camp, fresh out of School of Infantry. We went to Bridgeport, and we were falling out for night laying nab, but we were falling out onto a road,
Mhm.
and the company commander, platoon commanders, platoon sergeants were all in a meeting, and they told us to fall out. So we were up there smoking and joking, and like there was a group of 6 of us happened to be smoking some cigarettes. When during his meeting, he was telling them that we're in a semi-tactical environment not to be smoking. He gets done with his meeting, and the platoon commanders, platoon sergeants hadn't made it up to the road yet. He comes up there. 6 of us got an NJP for disobeying a superior commissioned
Oh,
officer
wow.
because he had just passed that
Come
information
on.
out.
Come on.
Yeah, and that
Come
no word was even passed yet.
Yeah, no word was even passed yet, but we still, lost pay. I can't remember if I got lost rank or not. I can't remember, but it's been
That's
such.
that's insane.
But he definitely had a
Yeah.
nickname. He
Yeah.
definitely had a nickname that we all called him because his last name was Schweitzer.
Okay.
So you can only imagine what his first name was that we called him. So, uh, so yeah, that it was fun though. I wouldn't trade my military time again because for one, I met Deeds in boot camp. We went to School of Infantry together. We served together in 2nd Battalion, 8th Marines, and we did lose contact. But once we did reconnect, I mean, we've been like thick as thieves since then. And
That's awesome.
that's something that is amazing about the military, that camaraderie. Like I can meet a veteran and pretty much instantly say, all right, I've known you pretty much my whole life, pretty much. But so my brain lost its train of thought there. Now you're out of the military, you're doing
Yep.
things with Diesel Jack Media. How did that come about and stuff like that?
So I got out of the military and I went to grad school and got a Fortune 100 gig. And I was doing well. I was making more money than anybody in my family had ever made. And I was miserable, like really did not like what I was doing. And it wasn't a reflection on the company. I worked for John Deere, which was, still, I think they're a fantastic company. But I am a person that needs to be able to take risk in order to be happy. And, at the time, I think Deere was like 35 billion. They're bigger now by a wide margin. $35 billion companies don't take risk. And so, as an example, I wrote David Letterman a letter and sent a bunch of like John Deere toys, and David Letterman liked the letter and read it on Reddit, on air, and showed off these John Deere toys, and toy sales went up and stuff, and I got in trouble because I didn't
For
ask
thinking, for
anybody.
thinking outside the box.
Yeah, I didn't ask anybody if I could do that, and they were like, what if this had, and they were right. To be honest, they were right. What if it had, turned out badly? Like, what if my judgment had been incorrect? But, like for me to be happy, I need to be able to like do something that is creative and on my own. And so, me and another buddy started, a hobby. And, a lot of entrepreneurs have these stories of like, I had this plan and I didn't have a plan. It was like, I think it'd be cool to make a funny veteran apparel brand. And so we started Ranger Up. And at the beginning, it was nothing. Like it did not do well right out of the gate. It was just this little thing that we had. But then we started getting these messages from people that were deployed, and we're like, this is the greatest thing. And, thanks for doing this. And so then I put a little more effort into it and more effort. And at some point I was working more on my hobby than I was on my actual job. So anyway, Ranger Up turns into an 8-figure apparel brand. And at one point it's the biggest game in town. Eventually, as I was walking away from it, Grunt Style exploded, and now you've got all these other 9 Line, another great company. Yeah. But for a while we were the only game in town, and I never expect, it's weird because I don't even like apparel that much. What I liked about it was, the community. And we were able to, we were able to give, I think, in the time I was there, I think we gave over $1 million in charity and hyped up a whole lot of people. And, even in the early years of like Article 15, we used to repost their videos, even though they were a competitor, and that led to friendship, and that led to the movie Range 15, because they were like, oh, like these guys don't suck. And so Diesel Jack happened because after I sold Ranger Up, because it was just time, it was like I had spent so much time on it. And I had gone through a lot, because when your company is that big, you're signing for millions of dollars in loans all the time. And anytime anything went wrong, it was like major stress. And just very candidly, I did it for long enough that I no longer wanted to do it. It was just like the stress of always having millions of dollars, where like if something went wrong, you were going to be bankrupted, was significant.
Right.
And but when I sold it, I contractually had to work for them for a year, which was fine. It was actually great, because it was like a year that was kind of stress free, where like I got to do what I wanted, and we grew a ton, and it was, things were going well. And then just as COVID was kicking off, the hedge fund that kind of owns the company and others decided they were going to do some downsizing. They were going to get rid of some people. And so they were like, hey, we're going to get rid of some people. Who do you want to get rid of? And I was like, I don't want to get rid of anybody. The company's doing great. Like, we're growing, like, and it wasn't an option. And that once again kind of put me in that situation I don't like, where I can't do the thing that I think is the right thing to do. So I just said, hey, listen, I'm the most expensive employee by a long shot. Get rid of me. I've done my year. And then you don't have to get rid of anybody else. And they said, well, if you're stepping down, then we're going to close the North Carolina office. And, they all can have jobs, but they have to move to Ohio. And nobody wanted to do that. And so, I kind of came in on Friday and said, hey guys, I got good news and bad news. The bad news is you're all getting laid off in 2 weeks. The good news is, if you want, in 2 weeks and 1 day, you can start a job at my new company. And they were like, well, what's that? It's like, I don't know yet. I'll tell you on Monday. And that's how Diesel Jack started. I went home. I had a job offer to go work somewhere else that would have been really good money and a much easier life. But like I said, I'm high risk. And so over the weekend, I talked to my wife, I talked to some friends, like, hey, what am I actually good at? I'm good at storytelling. I'm good at writing. I'm good at, digital content. And so we created a company that did those things. And it's been a 4.5-year ride. And, our latest project is Office Joe, which is a television series that's available, for now for sale on Prime, on Apple TV, and on YouTube, Google Play. And it's been like really a fantastic ride, where I got to invite a lot of veterans I have a ton of respect for, and they all came on and did great work. Jared Taylor and Austin Von Letkeman, AKA Mandatory Fun Day, truly hilarious together. They play the Army recruiters. So the show, I should probably say that, Office Joe is, it's about Joe Hauser. He's an E6. He's deployed a few times, and he decides it's time to get out right around the 10-year mark. And he drives across the country. He leaves Fort Lewis, drives across the country, and starts a job as a graphic designer at a marketing firm in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. And the whole show is really about his transition from being a member of the military to becoming a civilian, and all the challenges, that go on with that. So, to kind of keep some of the military flavor in it, right next door is an Army recruiter station. and that worked out great because we filmed at our office, and right next door to our office is an Army recruiting station.
Nice.
And the recruiters are played by Jared Taylor and Austin von Letkeman, who are always arguing about some stupid bullshit because they're so
No.
bored because they're recruiters in Chapel Hill, North Carolina.
Right. Yeah. So I was a recruiter for the Marine Corps here in Northern Kentucky, and we had the Air Force and the Navy and the Army by us, and we always went back and forth because we were recruiters here in the greater Cincinnati when we have 4 colleges right here, so it's, I get it. Yeah.
So, so in the office, you've got the ultra liberal guy that has a new cause every day. You've got the ultra conservative guy that, plays a lot of airsoft, and, he's wearing all the gear and, all that kind of stuff. You've got the social media girl. You've got the old grizzled guy that's kind of mysterious. So it's a really funny group of people that kind of play as the main cast, and then the supporting community. Like Tim Kennedy plays a 500-pound executive. He's in a fat suit. He's wheeling around. Jack Mandeville plays a hedge fund manager that's supposedly behind Black Rifle Coffee and combat flip-flops and all these great brands. And it's like a who's who of veterans that kind of come in and make it really fun. Ashley Gutermuth, she's an Air Force spouse. If you haven't seen her before, she's hilarious. So it was awesome. It was a great time, and I don't deserve the product that came out, but it really did come out as a great show, and the reviews are top notch. And I think the big thing that shocks people is they were expecting like Range 15 Part 2. And it's a lot more approachable than that. So with Range 15, that was like, Matt had just, Matt and Jared and Rocco, they had been in combat like 2 years before, they were in a dark place. And so everything in Range 15 is so absurdly dark. It was like there were the whole goal with it was like there were no holds barred. There is no joke that was too inappropriate, and which is why my wife won't let our 17-year-olds watch it. It's like it's too much. You can't watch, which obviously they do, but
it's all the craziness that we talk about or that we have seen behind the scenes outside of the general public eye that the military tries to hide from everybody that that you guys put on the forefront.
That's right.
So the guys that are the war fighters that or even served, even if it was a peacetime, they get it. They get it. That's why I think that's why it was so popular, because everybody's like, this is the best thing since sliced bread. This is exactly what we talk about. This is what we do. This is what we think about. And it's like I said earlier, hilarity ensued. So it was
So oh, sorry. We did have a question that because this goes back to Ranger Up. This is from Monica Sanford. So Monica Sanford is down in Florida. She's
I know Monica. Yeah.
So she said, ask Nick about going to Mosul, Iraq for Fight for the Troops and bringing a bunch of Ranger Up gear for the troops there.
Oh yeah. Listen, that was a wild trip. So I'm trying to remember who, it might have been Monica that reached out to me, but basically there was this fantastic group of people, Monica kind of chief among them, that, worked with now General Volke to figure out how to put on a professional MMA fight in Mosul, Iraq, literally at the height of when Mosul was like, that was like heavy combat all the time. And it was like, I'm not gonna lie to you, I was literally crying because we put on this fight, and it was, gosh, I there were so many people involved. I'm not even going to start naming all the people, but there were so many incredible people involved. And I don't know how Monica, and others got all the permissions, but we put on this MMA fight that had 14 fights.
Mm.
14. I can't remember now if it was like 14 amateur fights, and then I want to say like 5 or 6 pro fights.
No, dang.
And these are legit. Like a couple of the dudes that were in the pro fights went on to Bellator. And again, you know how like my random skill set of things, it was like, hey Nick, can you come be a training partner for all the pro fighters, because they couldn't travel with
They
their
can't bring their whole team.
they
yeah.
can't bring their team. And so like I had like in one night, it was like, okay, now it's this guy's turn. And it was like six people got to beat me up in a night, basically.
You're back to cutting weight again.
You know what?
You're in the shark pit.
I got to be fat though, so it didn't. I was fine. You know, it was. But let me tell you, just imagine, the troops built a ring, and you know, they literally built a ring from like specifications that they found online. You know, it was rough, like it was canvas. You know, guys were getting a little scuffed up and stuff, but and then there were. They had, you know, the generator lights kind of coming down on this thing. And then they put it right around all these sand dunes. And the troops are sitting up in the sand dunes, or, you know, some up on seats or benches in the front. And I don't think I've ever, and I was there when Anderson Silva lost his belt. So I've been to some events.
Yeah.
I have never been to a better MMA fight than the one that Monica put on. It was so incredible. But here's the thing that this is what brought me to tears. And this is the kind of shit where that is the first time that I met Patrick Miller. And Patrick Miller was one of the pro fighters that was on that card. And almost his entire, at the time, he was an infantry squad leader. I want to say it was in a Bradley. Yeah, it was in a Bradley. And he, almost his entire squad fought on the card.
Mm.
And at the end of the fight, they took off their combat stuff. I'm sorry, their fighting stuff. They took a quick shower, and like an outdoor shower, just to get, you know, whatever funk was off. And cool down a little bit. They geared up and they went out in beyond past the wire. And that night they got into a gunfight.
Mm.
And that was one of the proudest moments of my life, but it was also really dark because, you know, I was sitting there going, man, like, should I be here? You know, should I be out? Should I be doing this right now? Like, why am I, you know, you guys know, you wrestle with it, you get out, you wrestle with it kind of forever. But Patrick Miller, you know, I then, in later years went on to sponsor in all of his professional fights, along with some of the other guys that were in that squad. And now Patrick is, one of Tim Kennedy's, instructors at Sheepdog Response.
Wow.
So it's really wild. I just got to watch him get promoted once again.
Nice.
I had the chance to watch him put another stripe on his black belt, and I went out there to watch that.
Heck yeah, that's awesome.
So, you know, 2009. You know, it's a long time ago. That was a long time ago. But yeah, that was. I hold that up as one of the coolest things that I've been a part of. So, you know, Monica, thank you for allowing me to be a small part of that.
She says the best corner man ever is the comment she put in the chat. So she's actually watching on LinkedIn right now. So
okay.
So she's commenting from there. And no, I've known Monica for maybe about a year now. And so we have a segment here on HomeFront Sitrep that she helps veterans that are looking to get with their VA disability and stuff.
Yep.
She said perfectly said. Thanks, Dave. Love you, Nick, is what she said.
Yeah, she's awesome.
Yeah, she's amazing. I'm still waiting on her husband to get him on the show because he's a retired lieutenant colonel in
Yep.
the Marine Corps, and still waiting on him to reply to my email because I want to have him and her both back. I've had her on, but I want to have him and her back together. And so I got a official Joe teaser pulled up here. Do you mind if I play that?
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Let's see. Present. Share screen. All right, let's go full screen with it here. And then
Getting no sound, Willis.
no sound at all.
No.
Is nobody getting sound at all?
I'm not hearing any sound.
All right, hold on here. Let me get this off of the screen. You gotta love that when that happens. It's all your fault, Sam. I'm blaming you.
Oh, it's my fault. It has nothing to do with your, dial-up internet you got working down there. In the
Right.
middle of
Right.
Kentucky.
Let's see.
So Nick, you got any other projects coming up that you're working on that you want to talk about, or is everything hush hush? And is the full season of Office Joe out, or are you planning on doing more?
The full season of season 1 of Office Joe is out. It's 6 episodes. They average right around 35-40 minutes. So it's kind of like the equivalent of 12 normal comedy episodes. So it's a pretty lengthy season. You can, you sit down for a good 3.5 hours and you can binge it in a night. Most people binge it in 2 is kind of what I've heard. Got a lot of projects right now. We have an Army Navy commercial coming out that we did with the American Legion that has Nate Boyer in it, has Ashley Gutermuth in it, that came out pretty great.
So it's a Go Army beat Navy, huh?
It's not. No, because it's the Legion. It has to be right down the pipe.
Yeah.
But I'll just put it this way: we got to hire. They had a pretty decent budget for it, so we got to hire a semi-pro football team made up almost entirely of veterans out of Fayetteville, and I brought all these crash mats out and stuff, and was like, guys, we don't have to really do the hits, and they were like, screw that. We're gonna, this is gonna be on TV. We're gonna go all out.
They want to hear that pop of the pads.
We got legitimately some Terry Tate office linebacker level hits out of these guys. And it's really funny. It came out great. I'm proud of it. So that's coming up. I've got a book coming out in August that I wrote with Eric Tanzi. Eric is one of the best dudes that I have met. He is also a wild man. Left special operations to chase the girl, which everybody was like, "You're crazy." Ended up marrying the girl, and they have 5 kids. So he wasn't crazy, but he spent nine years as a cop. And there's a lot I can say about his career as a police officer. And the book it's called Pig Latin. And it's about his time as a cop, but just to put Eric there's no way I can describe Eric better than he won an award for valor and was fired from the police force on the same day.
Holy
Good Lord.
Holy cow.
So
is it gonna be on Audible?
It's gonna be on Audible. Yeah, for sure. He's the kind of guy. The way I ended up doing his book with him is I had him on my podcast, which I've kind of paused for a while because I've had all these projects, but you guys know how hard it is to So I had him on my podcast because somebody recommended, like, you got to talk to this guy. He's a wild man. He's crazy. And he starts telling these stories and I'm crying, laughing because he's so ridiculous, but it's also so genuine. And he's telling the truth. And then you talk to other people and they're like, oh yeah, that's what he did. He really did that. And you're like, he is an unfiltered human being. And so he's telling these stories, and I'm like, bro, this should be a book. And he's like, well, I kind of have like kept a book of short stories of my career the whole time that I went through it, so that I'd have them someday for my kids or whatever. And I was like, yeah, let me see it. And it was really good. And I just said, listen, these are good. I think you need, a professional writer to take it to the next level, because even though these stories are really good, they don't match how good your stories are when you tell them. Like, there's a little bit of oomph that's kind of missing. I was like, but let me introduce you to my editor from Scars and Stripes. He's amazing. His name's Amar Deol, absolute stud of an editor. And so I did. I introduced them, and Eric gave Amar his stories. And Amar, he took a month or two to kind of go through them, and then he calls me and he's like, bro, I really think there's something here. And I was like, yeah, I thought so too. I hope you can do something with it. And he goes, well, here's the deal. He's like, I'll give him a contract right now if you are the co-writer.
Oh,
And
man.
I was like, oh God, I don't know I don't know if I can. I wasn't a cop, so and so I was like, let me talk to Eric about it. And I was like, hey man, here's what he said. And Eric had these doe eyes, like they were like this big. He's like, so will you? And I was like, all right. I guess I'm doing a cop book. But super honored to do it. I definitely learned a lot about policing, writing this book with Eric.
Yeah.
It is way harder than we give it. I knew it was hard. Like, I wasn't one of these people that thought like, oh, but you kind of think it's got to be something like the military. And it like isn't, it isn't. The shit they have to deal with.
And especially if they're in a not so good community, it gets worse, right? So.
Yes, and he volunteered, because you had to volunteer. The Southeastern District of Raleigh is like a top 10 worst places to be a cop kind of thing. And you have to volunteer every year to be there, and you can leave anytime you want. And so he volunteered, for his entire career.
Wow.
So, but the book is wild. Like I said, it's called Pig Latin, comes out in August. You can pre-order it now on Amazon and Barnes and Noble. I think it's going to do really well. I think people are going to be surprised, because every book prior to this that I've ever read about cops, it's either somebody writing about how cops suck, or it's somebody that's writing about how cops are pure as the driven snow. And Eric doesn't judge at all. He just tells his stories. Like, this is what happened to me. And you couldn't make this shit up.
Wow.
So Monica said, what's the name of the book again? Is it Pig Latin?
Pig Latin.
Pig Latin, Monica.
Yeah, I spent a lot of time. I was stationed at Lejeune for all but 3 years of my 14-year career. And I spent a lot of time in the Raleigh-Durham area. Most of it was like going to the hockey games and stuff like that. So I know the area you're talking about, and I would not wish that district. I wouldn't wish it upon anybody. It's
a tough area. Yeah. But I've got lots of things going. I've got a movie project I'm working on, that I don't, it's not far enough along to talk about. Obviously I would love to do season 2 of Office Joe. But there's always things going on. And then of course, I co-founded an organization called Save Our Allies with, Sarah Verardo and Tim. And we are really busy right now in North Carolina. Absolute devastation, unlike, Katrina level devastation.
And that far away from a major body of water to have that much devastation.
It literally
is crazy.
Nothing like this has happened in recorded history.
Yeah.
Like literally there are no stories about this happening anywhere. I want to say they said like 4.5 trillion gallons of water got dumped in 20 minutes.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
it was like instant river. You know, and it's truly heartbreaking. Like in the, you know, at the very beginning, you know, we were involved in like search and rescue stuff. But I mean, even, you know, even some of the stuff early, you know, it was like a town reached out and was like, can you guys get us 500 body bags? You know, and I located them, and you know, our team delivered 500 body bags, you know, just to kind of put in perspective, like it was rough. And uh and the response was not fast enough or significant enough. And so it was a whole bunch of people like us, you know, Mercury One, who's always there. You know, I love Mercury One. They're, you know, they were there, you know, with us in Afghanistan when, you know, you know, when we were originally, you know, I was part of the Afghanistan evacuation. We originally had 2 planes that were donated from the UAE to C-17s, and then when people realized we were able to really move volume because of the grace of the Emirates, Mercury One came in and said, "What do you need?" And we were like, "Well, you know," and Glenn Beck, and we could really use, you know, more planes, and so they reached out to the Afghan airline there, Cam Air, and basically said, you know, how many functional planes do you have right now? And they said 3, and they paid them up front for, you know, a week's worth of air flight. And so we picked up 3 737s. And so, you know, those guys, they're under the radar, you know, they don't need to be, but you know,
Yeah.
they're fantastic.
Yeah.
So,
And you're
they're,
also, sorry, go ahead.
so they're out in North Carolina. They actually were just with Eric Tansey yesterday, and the CEO of Mercury One literally was on the ground in North Carolina for Thanksgiving, which I think is really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's super cool. I got some buddies that are in North Carolina that right after, because they live in North Carolina, and then right after the storm came through, like all the veterans that were in that little community just got together and started rescuing people, and seeing the
100%.
footage and seeing the footage
100%.
from there, it was like, holy cow, man.
Yep.
Like Brandon, he's like, man, my whole town's gone. You know, of course he lives up in the hills, but he's like, my whole town is gone.
It's
And
true.
it was just so devastating to see, you know, North Carolina up in the mountains up there just to be ravaged like it was.
Yeah.
It was just,
Well, I mean, just the height of the water at the Biltmore, at the estate, at the gate, you know, and it's not in the valley. I mean, it's at an elevated spot, and the amount of water that came through there is just unbelievable. And I know, I mean, I bet we have sent 20 or 30, you know, trailer loads of stuff from here in Ohio, the Skydive Center that we're based out of. They're like, hey, anybody want to make donations in North Carolina? I mean, we still have stuff sitting there, and it goes to, we take it down to Mountain City, Tennessee, to the Skydive Center down there, and they distribute it because they're on the back side of the hill, because you can't get there from the other side.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I know there's guys had to come up from Tennessee to grab stuff, and guys from here have taken the trailers down and brought them back and refilled them. And I mean, there's just ongoing effort from regular people.
Yeah.
Because
Sean
the
Lee
response from other people's not there.
Sean Lee, who was he's our ground force commander in North Carolina. He and I actually met on the Afghanistan mission for the first time. And it was funny. There were like a couple of years where every time we met, we were overseas. It was like, you know, Afghanistan, Ukraine, like, you know, and then we finally saw each other stateside 2 years in or something in DC. But Sean basically has lived there the entire time. First, he was living in a tent, and then he had a trailer, and now we finally have, you know, we have a place and whatnot. But we just got a warehouse that we just leased for a year because, you know, the focal point isn't there anymore, but the aid will be needed for at least a year.
Minimum.
So, we just delivered a bunch of tents and pot-bellied stoves and, we're in the process of rebuilding kind of it's a store, but it's kind of like the focal point of the community. Because if it's not operating, like, people have nowhere to buy things, they have nowhere to congregate, because it's like, it's a store, but it's a restaurant, but it's, small town America.
Yeah.
And so, there's tons of projects like that, um, we've been very fortunate that, like, American citizens stepped up and donated a lot of money to the cause. And so we're trying to put that money to good work. And, and we know from experience with everything, there's always excitement around solving the problem for a couple of weeks, a month, but then the real work starts, and through no fault of anybody else. You can't worry about something nonstop, but it doesn't change the fact that there are people that are still in crisis.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, the reality of the rebuild, when everybody pulls out and the community's back on their own again, that really sets in.
There's a lot of stressors there too, because everybody clears the main road, and they get access in and out, but there's still debris everywhere. And as a veteran, you're if you're in that situation, you're up there and you're like, man, how do we fix this? And then that's when your anxiety kicks in, and it's just crazy. So now you're also involved in other nonprofits as well, correct?
I'm involved in a lot of stuff. I do a lot of work with the American Legion. The American Legion is the gem that modern veterans are not taking advantage of. And I've been a member of the Legion basically, right around the time I got out, started Ranger Up. I joined the Legion just because I felt I should, but I didn't actually do anything meaningful with them until a couple of years ago. And it's, the big thing that they're pushing right now. So people don't realize this, but there are 13,000 American Legion posts nationwide. So there is no other organization in the veteran community that has that kind of infrastructure. And so when you look at the suicide epidemic, the number one thing that staves off suicide is immediate intervention by people that can, either get on the phone or physically be there. Well, when you have 13,000 locations, that makes the organization better equipped than anybody else to do just that. And so the initiative's called Be the One. And for years, you kind of have these professionals that say things like, well, you should just refer them to a professional. And like, all the data says that's not true at all.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't want to talk to a professional, and with veterans in particular, flash to bang, so to speak, on making the decision is very fast compared to a civilian. It's like they make the call and it can be done in like minutes.
Yeah.
And so you have to be the first. You have to be there. You have to have people there. And so Be the One is the idea, like, be the one that makes a difference in the lives of veterans. And they're training anybody in their organization that wants to learn how to, kind of be a first responder for suicide prevention, with the eventual goal of not just being, known for like, hey, if you're having trouble, go to the Legion and talk. But they're also thinking, listen, there's a lot of kids out there in communities that have shitty parents.
Yeah.
There are, men and women that are going through rough divorces or abuse or, whatever. Or, listen, we've all had financial challenges. We've all had relationship challenges. We've all had health challenges. And sometimes when everything stacks up on top of you, you're thinking about a permanent solution to a temporary problem. And they want to get to the point where the community knows, if you're in crisis, walk into a Legion and talk to somebody. So that's the really cool thing that I think the Legion's working on right now, but things that people don't know about the American Legion youth programs. I had no idea that the Legion was behind Boys State, and I did Boys State.
Wow.
I had no idea that the Legion held an oratorical competition every year where kids argued the Constitution. I had no idea that they had the most elite junior shooting event in the country every year.
Wow.
I had no idea that American Legion baseball is 100-year tradition.
Yeah.
I can go on and on and on. And there's so I give the Legion a lot of my time. And I'm never disappointed in the time that I give the Legion. The Independence Fund is another great one. I don't think anybody does more for wounded veterans than they do. And they also have a fantastic program for veteran suicide that focuses on bringing units back together. So if you know a unit that has gone through it, that had maybe they had a rough combat experience, or they've had a couple members of their unit take their lives, they should reach out to the Independence Fund and see if they can hold an event for the unit. And they're phenomenal 5-day events. Where they bring on their dime, they fly everybody back, and to have like basically a 5-day week of fun with a little bit of work, to kind of work on a little bit of mental healing. But they have had nobody that has gone through, it's called Operation Resiliency. Nobody that has gone through Operation Resiliency over the last 5 years has taken their life.
That's awesome. That is amazing.
Yeah, that's a testament to what they're doing for sure.
So that's where I'm spending my time, on the nonprofit side. But yeah, man, the veteran community is always the first to jump into any event. And I think that we are at our best when we are trying to serve.
Well, when we're under pressure in adverse situations, for sure.
Yep. And I've literally seen it since I started getting involved in this kind of stuff. It doesn't matter, like Afghanistan, right? A whole bunch of volunteers there that nobody knows about. And even dudes that were still in uniform but weren't supposed to be there that were there anyway. You know what I mean?
They made their way back.
They found their way there.
So I listened to Tim's book.
Yep.
And there's some mention of some of those things that happened, throughout his book. And that book kept me just on the edge the entire time. Just listen to him about his life events, his story, everything from where he started as a child to, fire, police, to special forces, to MMA, to everything. That was a phenomenal book. And I think, when you said working on edge, I think especially the special operations community, because they work in more intense areas in the smaller groups. I think that community itself is better under pressure just because of how you guys are wired.
Well, I think all veterans, I really do. I mean, obviously, SF guys have gone through a different kind of training that is specifically designed for weird problems, how to solve weird problems in weird ways, right?
Yeah.
Like that's kind of when I think of SF, I think of that. But I mean, listen, most of the guys that were out there in North Carolina, they were regular veterans. And I'll tell you who came through big. The guys that came through really big with special skills are the JTACs and TAC-Ps.
Yep.
Because I put out a call like, hey, we've got a bunch of LZs and it's a shit show because the guys that know how to manage LZs don't know how to sleep on the ground and be miserable.
Yep.
So, right now it's just a free for all. And so, my friend Sean Hurley, he put out a call and was like, hey, are there any TAC-Ps, JTACs, et cetera, that could come out here? And I shit you not, in 24 hours, I built a list of 81 TAC-Ps and JTACs.
Holy cow. That's crazy.
And that's a small community.
That is
So
the small.
to get 81 of those guys, that's phenomenal.
And those guys were also the unsung heroes of the evacuation in
Yeah.
Ichkaya.
Mm.
So, they need their own book at some point, just talking about their work. But that community, from Jared Taylor to Sean Hurley to literally everybody I've met in that community is impressive.
Yeah, I just listened to Chapman's book about the combat controllers, and I was like, oh yeah, I never knew. And I served 14 plus years in the Marine Corps and never knew about that community and how small that community was. I mean, I know about the JTACs and the TACPs, but the combat controller community, even being smaller than that, and the things that they have to do, even not even in combat situations. So yeah, that I mean, you get guys and girls like that have that skill set to be able to put, a plane or a helicopter on a gnat's ass is just unbelievable to get that support in there, to get the supplies and the help that the communities need.
Yep.
Definitely.
And you also see, one of the things, and I, I'm not trying to yank it back to Office Joe, but I will. One of the things that you saw with all of the volunteers that we had in North Carolina is a lot of the guys were doing all this like grueling work, and in some cases really brutal work, because there were, I won't get into the detail, but some of it was really brutal, but they felt, they were saying like, man, I feel like connected for the first time. And that really highlighted the challenge that veterans have for a while, kind of getting reconstituted as civilians. And that's what, even though Office Joe it's an outrageous comedy. And I mean, it is outrageous. Like it's not, but there is kind of like this serious undertone of, transition's hard for everybody.
Yeah.
And, and you watch the main character slowly adapt. Not that by the end of season 1 he's there, but he's kind of figured a few things out, and he realizes, okay, maybe it's not so bad, but he's still not like happy, but he's figuring it out. And so the idea with this is, I don't know a veteran that has had an easy transition. Not that they've had I don't even mean that they've not succeeded. Most veterans get out, they get jobs, they do fine, but they're uneasy for years, or at least months, depending on the person. But most people, at least a few years before they kind of settle into like, okay, civilian life is good, and I've kind of found my new purpose and my new tribe and my, and that's what Office Joe is really tackling. It's the outrageous world, of Joe Hauser, but there is a message underpinning the whole thing, and there is character development for all the characters. And so hopefully you guys will check it out, because it was a lot of fun to make, and I think we made a pretty great show.
Yeah, I definitely have Amazon Prime, so I'm definitely going to check them out. I just have to get the approval from upper management to buy them. Because if I spend money, she's like, you don't need to be doing that. So
I understand.
But no, man, you stay super busy, and you hit it kind of on the head when it comes to transitioning. We talk about it numerous times on the show over the course of the last 2 years, that idle minds and veterans don't mix. And then when you're getting out of the military, you lose that sense of purpose, you lose that camaraderie. You have to find something to keep you going straight, because if not, you're going to fall down that rabbit hole. You can wind up on the street. You can wind up becoming one of the 22. And so you definitely have to keep pushing. That's like when I got out in 2004. I had a job lined up and I went to work there, but it just wasn't filling what I needed, even though, I was bringing money in to support the family. But that's when I was like, all right, I need something else. So I started volunteering at all these different veteran service organizations and meeting all these different veterans and stuff. And I was like, all right, this is my people. And I did that for until 2020. And then my last organization I was with, it was just a bad organization, and I was like, all right, I got to step away. So I stepped away, and I was like, all right, what am I going to do now? And what's my next purpose in life? And I was like, all right, I'm gonna start this podcast, and it's kind of like you said earlier, it's hard work, especially when
It's
you
hard
dive
work.
when you dive in head first, and it's
Yep.
just you, and you're passionate about it. You want to see it take off and do
Yeah.
wonderful things and help people. And I've been very blessed over the last 2 years to have great people like Sam or Candace, who's my other co-host, and then great guests like you, and all the other guests that we've had, like Monica and Nick, Ron, and you name it. I've had them on here, uh, and then be part of Heroes Media Group, Reach Across America, Veterans Voice Radio, Military United podcast streams. It's just I'm just going to keep pushing because I
Yeah.
want, because what keeps me up at night is missing that one veteran. That's what keeps me up at night. So I'm just going to keep pushing and pushing, and we'll see where it goes from there.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it is. It's hard work though. People don't understand, the process of getting guests, the process of sitting down and doing this. And I don't know how heavy your edit is, but when you have a podcast that needs editing, or if you use multi-camera, like it really, it's a big job, and it takes a lot of time, effort, thought. And if to do it right, you got to be prepared. If you're not prepared, it's kind of like there's a lot of uhs, and you're like surprised by things on the show. And yeah, it's hard work.
yeah, when I first started, we did audio only, and going back and doing the edits on those, I got to the point where I can see what my looked like. It looked like a kind of like a fish looking on Audacity, and I was like, oh, there's an right there. So I go ahead and click that out. But once I moved to video and we started doing live, it made it so much easier, just for the simple fact that we didn't have to do any editing or anything like that.
Sure.
And then the more we got into it, the easier the flow of the words that came now. Now I do have the TBI that's undocumented, and so every now and then I have a brain fart, but that's where good co-hosts like Sam or Candace, they can see me, my brain, smoking, and then they pick
Sure.
up
Yeah.
where I'm off, and it's just. I love what you guys are doing with Diesel Jack Media, and I thank Hollywood Herd for reaching out to Adam with Heroes Media Group and getting us connected, because I don't know how we would have met other than Hollywood reaching out and saying, hey, I want to get Nick on Homefront Sitrep. It's just
Well,
that's,
you should have him on, because he's a wild man. He's an
oh
Air
yeah,
Force veteran. Air Force veteran. He flew B-1s, B-52s. He
Wow.
produced the show. Discovered Osiris's tomb. He's a wild man.
all right.
Wild.
Yeah.
Well, I do have his phone number and email, so I'm going to have him on as well. So I'll have to get him scheduled. But
Yeah.
no, man, we've touched on so much tonight, between ranging from your military service, what you did in the military, then what you did when you got out working with John Deere, and then going into Ranger Up, and then going over to Iraq to do an MA fight with Monica, and then everything else that you've done. Is there
Yeah,
anything
just to be clear, Monica and I didn't fight.
now, is there anything that we hadn't touched on that you might want to touch on before we put you in the back of in the green room so we can close it out?
No, I really appreciate you guys having me on, and obviously I'll say it again. Check out Office Joe. It was a year and a half of very hard work by a lot of incredible veterans, and I think the show turned out fantastic. That we've had three premieres, and they were all packed houses. One of them was 350 people, and it got standing ovations. So it's not just me saying it. It really has been a great show for a lot of people. So I'd appreciate your support. With your support, I can make season 2. Without your support, I just have to be sad and cry myself to sleep every night. But yeah, Office Joe is the big one, and then in August, or if you're a pre-order kind of person now, Pig Latin with Eric Tanzi.
Nice.
That's a lot of fun. So
Well,
thanks again for having me on.
In season 2, if you need anybody to portray a podcast host, I got 2 of them right here on the screen for you.
Perfect.
Or a disgruntled gunny. I got you.
There you go. All right, my friend. Well, I'm gonna put you in the green room. We're gonna close it out real quick, and then at the end we'll do some more talking real quick. All right, man. That
And
was
you cut him off before he said, all right. So you
Oh,
just threw him
man.
back there before you even said, okay.
What
are you doing?
Man, I don't know. I was just excited, man. It's
You're
super
quick with the
cool
button.
episode.
Quick with the
I
button.
was quick with it. It's super cool episode, man.
Yeah.
I'm super excited about having Nick on and talk about. Now I'm definitely going to go tell the wife, hey, I'm going to download and pay for these episodes so I can watch.
She
all
just bought new chairs, man. So go ahead and just download them. Ask for forgiveness later. That's
Yeah,
all you have to do.
Definitely. Monica, it was a great show. Thank you for coming on. And tell your husband I did respond to his last email. I'm just waiting on him to respond back. I love Monica. She's amazing with her podcast as well, with Monica Sanford Show. You guys need to go check her out as well. So at the beginning of the show, I was looking for Theory's song, Hear Me, though, because I was going to play that song. And I remembered I uploaded it to Tip of the Spear for that when we started that, but I didn't upload it for Homefront Sitrep. I was like, so I played Scotty Hastings on that.
That's all right. That's all right. We got a show tomorrow, so we can get Theory on there tomorrow. Hear Me, though. I think Rich just shared his video too, because I think he's on Misfit Nation, right? So
well, he shared the new music that Theory put in the text group that we had.
Yeah.
The new music that he's got that ain't released yet. So super cool about that. And then we always talk about it, Sam. If you're a veteran and you're in crisis, what do you need to do? Reach out to somebody. And this is something that we say right here all the time. Be someone's stranger. And what we mean by that is we as humans are more apt to talk to a complete stranger than the ones that we love the most. I've been with my wife for 22 plus years. You've been with your wife for almost 23. And my wife is just now within the last 2 years finding out about a lot of stuff that I went through. So I'm more apt to talk to a complete stranger than I am my own wife and my own kids. So be someone's stranger. Be somebody's ear that they can talk to you about things that are going on in their life. And like Sam says, we don't want you to fix us. We just want you to listen to us.
Just need to get those demons out sometimes, and that ear is all it takes.
Yeah. So I'm gonna play that little commercial real quick. It's a BetterHelp commercial. And just pay attention to what's the words that are written on the board. So how many of those have you said today, Sam?
All of them.
All of them. I probably said maybe 2 or 3 today. Of course, I didn't do a whole lot today, being Sunday, and but yeah, knowing we said, hey, I'm okay, or I'm living the dream, or I'm hanging in there, knowing darn well that inside we're just tore up. So guys, if you're out there, ladies and gents, if you're out there, you need help, reach out to somebody. You can reach out to me, you can reach out to Sam, reach out to somebody. Dial 988 *1 if you're a veteran, 988 if you're not a veteran. If you don't like the person you're chatting with on the other line because you don't connect with them, disconnect and reconnect, and get somebody different. So you just definitely have to ask that next hard question. And then Sam, this is yours right here.
Yeah, you're not alone. No matter what you think, you're not alone. There's somebody out there that has been through the same experiences or similar experiences that you have, that have walked the path and come out on the other side. Don't let those dark days win.
Yeah, definitely don't let the dark days win. And then you can find Homefront Sitrep on Reese Across America Radio. So you just go to the link here below, reaseacrossamerica.org/radio. We are on Thursday nights at 11 p.m. Eastern. So this week will probably be Nick's episode that we're going to upload for Reach Across America. So if you missed it here live and you don't go back and watch it and you want to listen to it, well, Thursday nights at 11 p.m. Eastern, you can go and find it there. And you can also find it on the iHeartRadio app, Audacity app, and TuneIn app as well. Just search the word Wreath and you can find it there. And then, like we were talking, Miss Monica, she's in here watching us right now. If you are a veteran and you're having trouble filing your VA disability, or you want a second opinion, reach out to Miss
Or you just have questions.
Yeah, or if you just have questions. We had I had a guy reach out to me on TikTok, asked me if I was a VSO. I told him no, and he was telling me a story that he was having trouble getting his VA disability. It got denied, and I was like, all right, I got the perfect person to reach out to, Miss Monica Sanford. He sent her an email. Then they did a Zoom call. I don't know what's going on since then, but once we have Monica on the show again, she can inform us. So you can reach out to Monica at askmonica0@gmail.com. I'm gonna play that commercial real quick. I love that music. Just get my head
Right. It just gets you going. And
yeah, it puts you in a good mood. It really does. So guys, ladies, gents, thank you guys for coming in here and chatting with us tonight. Thank you guys for the ones that are going to pick this up and watch it later. Without your support, HomeFront Sitrep, we could probably still do what we're doing, but it wouldn't be as good. We are currently, I think we are number 2 on the feedspot.com. So we need to get that back up to number 1, but I'm okay with being number 2 as well, because as long as I'm helping a veteran and not missing that one veteran, that's what all that matters.
Yep.
So definitely check us out. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, and all of that. And then, like we always say on HomeFront Sitrep, stay safe out there. We got
your 6.
Thanks for listening. Hope you enjoyed this show.
Suggestions and comments are always welcome.
Cannot wait to have another great show with y'all.
Don't forget you can find HomeFront Sitrep on Apple, Amazon, Spotify, or wherever you get your favorite podcasts.
Stay safe out there. I got your 6.